How much do you think the claims of these survivors are worth? As the good congressman from Kentucky just pointed out,
6
there were
days.
lots of
That is the gap between the
who
moment
had
Donald Trump
decided
posted
for
on
reasons
social
of their
media
own
demanding that
never
James
to
Comey
release
be
their
indicted,
names.
writing,
That
"Nothing is being
determination
done and we
was
can't
represented people in
delay
Congress,
any
and we
longer."
built it
And the
into our
moment Pam
federal
Bondi's
law
Department of
that their
Justice
names could
indicted
not be
James
released.
Comey.
And yet
6 days.
you published
Senator
their
Richard
names,
Blumenthal
their phone
placed a
numbers, their
photograph in
addresses,
front of Bondi
personally
at the
identifying
Senate
information.
Judiciary
If
Committee.
Donald Trump
It showed her
can
at a
get
White
$10
House
billion
dinner the night
theoretically
before
from
the
the Department of
indictment was
Justice,
announced.
how much
He asked her
should these
directly,
people
was the
get
Comey indictment
for a
discussed at that
far
dinner?
worse
Her response
violation
was
of
that it
their
was a
privacy
great
rights
picture
and a
and there were a
far
lot of
greater
people there that
danger
night. When
established
he
to them
asked
in
what
their lives?
conversations she had with the president about the Comey indictment, she said she would not discuss any conversations she had or had not had with the President of the United States. That answer is carefully constructed. It is not a denial. It is a refusal to confirm or deny, which in the specific context of a 6-day gap between a presidential social media demand and a federal indictment, functions as its own answer. This is not a political story about Democrats and Republicans arguing about prosecutorial priorities. This is a documentation problem. The timeline is documented. The social media post is documented. The dinner photograph is documented. The indictment date is documented. The 6-day gap between demand and action is a fact in the public record. The Attorney General of the United States will not explain it under oath. Go back further. In January 2025, Bondi sat before the Senate for her confirmation hearing. She pledged independence from the White House. She said she would not be the president's personal lawyer, but the people's chief law enforcement officer. She promised to follow the law wherever it led. And then senators asked her about Pennsylvania, about the 2020 election, about the repeatedly litigated, repeatedly adjudicated, court-certified question of who won that state. Bondi had spent months in Pennsylvania as an advocate for the campaign, raising specific concerns about the process. Under oath, she was asked to say plainly that Trump lost. She would not. She said she accepted that Biden was sworn in as president. She said she saw things in Pennsylvania. She danced around the question with language carefully designed to avoid a direct confirmation of a legally settled fact while appearing to accept it. Fact checkers flagged it immediately, not a spin, but as a direct contradiction of established court-certified reality, delivered under oath. And then there were the Fox News clips. Senators surfaced appearances in which Bondi had named names, accused former prosecutors of criminal conduct, and framed their lawful investigative work as a conspiracy deserving prosecution. Under the confirmation hearing lights, she called these statements campaign rhetoric and said she would never weaponize the DOJ for political revenge. The problem is that the clips are on tape. The names she mentioned are now facing charges or investigation. The distance between what she said on Fox News and what she said under oath is not a matter of interpretation. It is a documented gap between two recorded statements made by the same person in different contexts. Now stay with me, because the confirmation hearing perjury question is only the first layer. In her oversight hearings, Bondi developed a consistent stonewalling approach that has become its own legal problem independent of the underlying questions. Senators asked about DOJ communications with the president regarding potential indictments of political figures. She said she would not discuss conversations with the president. They asked who gave the order to flag records containing Trump's name in the Epstein document review. She said she would not discuss that. They asked about the $50,000 delivered in a paper bag to Tom Homan as part of an FBI bribery sting, a transaction allegedly captured on audio and videotape. She said she did not know the answer. When a senator said she did know the answer, she told him not to call her a liar. He responded that he had not called her a liar. He had asked a question. The question still has not been answered. Every one of these refusals is being transcribed and documented. That documentation does not expire at the end of a congressional session. It accumulates. And it is accumulating alongside a separate but parallel legal problem that Bondi may not have fully accounted for when she decided that defiance was the right strategy. Federal judges do not react the way senators do when their authority is ignored. Senators can be interrupted. They can be attacked. They can be
We have
deflected
only
with
5
photographs of
minutes.
criminals from
And
other
so
states.
we use our
Federal
time to
judges
ask you
cannot.
specific
They issue
questions.
orders.
How long are you getting?
In the orders
Excuse
being
me,
issued
I'm
in
not
connection
yielding
with
to
the
you right now. I'd
Epstein
like that
Files
second
Transparency Act,
restored
a
too.
law passed with a
So,
veto-proof
Ms. Bondi, the way it
majority
works
and
is
signed by
we
Trump
ask you a
himself,
question,
are being
and
met
you
with
answer it, and if
stalling,
you go
with
off
redactions that
on a
legal
wild
scholars
goose chase, another
describe as
tangent, you
wildly
start reading
overbroad,
statistics,
with
or you
partial
start
productions
talking
that
about stuff
render
going
the
on in our
released
district, and by the way,
pages
I
more
invite you to my
black
district.
ink than
Come to
text.
my district,
The
but that's not what
judiciary's
we're here to
language
do
in
today.
response to this
Okay?
is documented,
So,
and it is
you do that, then
escalating.
we are allowed to
What
say we
began as
reclaim our
gentle
time.
directives
At
has
that
moved to
point,
firm
you have
orders
to be
and is
quiet.
now,
You have no
according to
choice.
court
You have to be
watchers,
quiet. So,
approaching
I hope you
explicit
understand
language
the
about
rule of this court. Now,
sanctions,
here's what I wanna
contempt,
ask you.
and criminal referrals.
You're
A
in law
federal judge
enforcement.
holding the attorney
We've
general
seen
in
all kinds of
contempt
evidence
is
of
not a
crimes.
theoretical
And
possibility.
when we go over to
It
the
is a
Department
tool
of
on the
Justice for
table
the
that
four
federal
computer
judges
served
have
member of
used
Congress,
against
we see more
executive
evidence
branch
of crimes.
officials before.
Will
A
you
contempt
create
finding would be a
joint
permanent mark
task
on
force
Bondi's institutional
of the
record.
Department of Justice
It would provide
and
the most
governors and state
powerful
attorney
single
generals
piece of
and district
ammunition
attorneys
for
across the
congressional
country
contempt
to
proceedings.
investigate
And it
the
would
crimes
wait,
that have taken place
archived,
against these
documented,
victims and more than
legally
1,000
immovable,
like
for the
them.
day
The
she
DOJ
leaves
is not
office
doing its
and is
job.
no
Will
longer
you
in a
create
position to
task
be her
force
own
with
prosecutor.
state and local law
According to
enforcement make that
unverified
happen?
accounts from sources familiar with internal DOJ deliberations, there have been discussions among senior staff about the long-term institutional risk of the current approach to judicial compliance. Specifically, that the accumulation of defiance across multiple federal cases is creating a record that will be difficult to defend in any future proceeding that does not have the protection of a politically aligned executive branch. These accounts have not been confirmed. What is confirmed is that judges are explicitly escalating their language, that the record of noncompliance is growing, and that the Attorney General continues to appear before congressional committees and decline to answer factual questions. The legal architecture around Bondi's exposure has two pillars. The first is her sworn testimony, the confirmation hearing statements about independence, about Pennsylvania, about not weaponizing the DOJ, measured against the documented record of what she has done in office. Perjury under 18 U.S.C. 1621 does not require a cartoonish lie. It encompasses deliberately misleading statements and material omissions designed to create a false impression. The gap between what she said under oath and what the documented record of her conduct shows is not subtle. The second pillar is her conduct in office. The Comey indictment timeline, the Epstein document defiance, the $50,000 question she will not answer, the judicial orders she is not meeting. Obstruction of Congress is a crime. Contempt of court is a crime. The documentation of both is being built in real time by journalists, congressional staff, and the judges themselves. The shield protecting Bondi from the immediate consequences of this exposure is political. A House majority aligned with the administration and her own control of the department she would otherwise be referred to for prosecution. That shield is temporary. The 2026 midterms represent the moment when the calculation could change. A Democratic House would have the power to subpoena the emails and internal memos that sit behind her public testimony, to hold hearings that place her sworn statements side by side with the documents that contradict them, and to refer the accumulated record to a future independent Department of Justice. The evidence is not disappearing. It is being cataloged. Michael Cohen went to prison for lying to Congress. Roger Stone was convicted for obstruction and witness tampering. The system has demonstrated it will prosecute people who lie under oath and obstruct investigations, even when they are adjacent to significant political power. Bondi's position is more elevated and more consequential than either of theirs. The protections she currently enjoys are real. They are also entirely dependent on political conditions that are not permanent. The 6-day gap between a presidential social media post and a federal indictment is in the record. The dinner photograph is in the record. The confirmation hearing statements are in the record. The $50,000 question with no answer is in the record. The judicial orders and the department's responses to them are in the record. The record does not require political will to exist. It only requires political will to act on. And the people building that record are not in a hurry. They are being methodical. The same way White House was methodical. The same way Blumenthal was methodical. The same way every federal judge writing escalating language into a court order is being methodical. Patience in the law is often the most dangerous thing a prosecutor can have. Stay with us.